From the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours. We are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening, everyone, to one and all, wherever or whenever you're listening to our program. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Frost, and joining me, as always, is medium Jenny Lee. So, let's go ahead and get started. We had a lot to figure out tonight. We had a lot of different parts moving for the first time this evening, so thanks for bearing with us. Thanks everyone who's come in. So far, Linguist started us off with a raid before we even went live, so thank you for that, Linguist. Thank you, Keisha, for being here tonight. CMC Air Boss. We have Odin's Eye Tarot. How's it going? Welcome in.
GG.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot of people
Mama.
here.
There's a lot of folks.
Tarot Mama, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in.
All the best folks.
The best folks. Yeah. So tonight is going to be a good show. Tonight's going to be a good show. There's some stuff we get to talk about that we have not been able to talk about yet. So we're looking forward to it. So real quickly, Priestess of Wonderland is on here to give everyone an update about the lunar cycles for the month, what's going on with the moon, what you need to know, what's going on. So what's going on, Allison? How are you doing this evening?
We kind of picked a crazy month to do this because a lot of other astrological shifts are happening this month. So it's good to be aware of, it's good to pay attention to. And I always tell anybody who's just starting out following the moon, or telling everybody, if you've already been following the moon and you fall off track, that like you can pick up wherever you've left off. And right now we are in a waxing gibbous Cancer moon. For March 1st and March 2nd, we were in a waxing gibbous Cancer moon. And that I like that we're starting here because we're also in Pisces season. So this is a lot of water energy. Pisces, the symbol is are the fish, and then Cancer is the crab. So this is a lot of water energy that we're starting off the month with. And then we also have Neptune. Neptune and Mercury is also in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces in general. So this is very dreamy, subconscious energy. And then Mercury in Pisces is like how it's almost like a poetic way of communication, because Mercury is the planet of communication. So this is so much water and dreamy and like believing that anything is possible to start out the month with. And then next week, we have a full moon in Virgo, which is the total opposite energy of Pisces' dreamy energy. Virgo is an earth sign. It wants things to be organized and done a certain way. And it's also the opposite time of year. Virgo season is fall, and we're here in Pisces season about to start spring. So it's totally opposite energy, but it helps us understand that we need these completely opposite energies to balance everything out. The universe wants to balance itself out. So I look at a full moon in Virgo during Pisces season as, how do you take these dreams that are floating around in your head and feel impossible, and how do you bring them down to the earth and accomplish them and believe that like it can actually happen. The other big thing that's happening on the full moon is that Saturn is also moving into Pisces. And this is just adding more water to this whole situation, but it's also making it feel more possible. Like all of your wildest imaginations feel tangible at this time. But Saturn is the planet of boundaries and restrictions. So like boundaries keep us safe and protected, but they also hold us back. And having a water boundary gives you a lot more to play with and a lot like Like, imagine if walls were made of water. Like, you can literally stick your hand through it. And that is like, again, giving us this opportunity to, whoa, what if I could push past this barrier? What if I could push past this wall that's been holding me back, that has caused me to like not believe in my dreams? And this is a huge shift happening, and it's all happening on the full moon. I do have, I think I can, I know this probably isn't going to make sense to anybody. I'm going to pull up the astrological chart for the full moon. And I know it looks confusing, but if you look at the 3 o'clock position on this circle wheel, you'll see a little crescent moon, like right at the 3 o'clock position. And without knowing anything else what's going on, all of those lines in the middle of the circle are pointing up at that moon. It's like this, where am I? It's like this pinnacle that's like pointing, well, I guess it's this way. Wait, this way. So all of these planets are pointing at the moon or having a relationship with the moon on the full moon. And it's going to be like really powerful energy. It's going to be, like I said, about pulling your dreams into reality, but then we're going to have this conflicting energy of all of those other planets, the sun, Mercury, Neptune, Uranus, Venus, Chiron, and Jupiter. I'm not going to go into like too much detail what all that means, but it's a lot of energy that is going to help, but could also kind of like make you feel like, oh, maybe this isn't possible. And the full moon is about illuminating things that you need to see. It's like shining a big spotlight on something. So for some of us, I think this might be an obstacle that is illuminated. And for some of us, I think it's going to be this like doorway, or like, oh, hey, this is going to work out. This could work out. But collectively, I think it's just going to be this huge shift of energy. And that's only within the first week of March. These are really big shifts happening between the 1st and the 7th. And the biggest thing I want to look at for the rest of the month is that Uranus is making a trine to the moon. And Uranus is the planet of liberation and freedom. So this, like Saturn, is making those boundaries a little less rigid. The Uranus is like giving you this like oomph to like liberate ourselves. And so collectively, I think this is going to be a huge shift, like for society, for our world. And I think we can all kind of feel that coming, that tension, that like, I was talking to Nabnia, another streamer on Twitch, and she described it so perfectly as like that wave. Like before a wave comes, you feel that like pull back and the water just like recedes back, and then this huge wave just like comes forward. And that's kind of what it feels like. I wish I could communicate with you guys, because I wanted to ask how you're feeling, because it feels very draining and tired. And it's like this pullback before this huge energy shift is happening. As this moon cycle closes, we have a full moon and then it decreases. This energy is going to kind of like settle down a little bit. But then on March 21st, we have a new moon in Aries. And this is also the spring equinox. This is fire energy. This is like go, go, go. So all of this leading up to March 21st is like, this is the starting line. The new moon in Aries is like the starting line, and we're like supposed to go. And in the our 2023 predictions that we all had, we joked about hibernating until March, but like this is it. Like we're at March already and this is time to go. And a lot of us had pulled the Chariot card, and I specifically pulled the Page of Cups and the Chariot for this new moon. And how I see that fitting so perfectly with what is happening right now is that the Page of Cups is like a person holding a cup with a fish jumping out of it. So it's like all of this water energy, but we're giving it a cup and a container to like be held in, because otherwise water just like spreads all over the place. So I see this entire month of March of like putting your dreams in a cup and deciding if you want to drink from it or if you want to like let it go, because there's also going to be a lot of releasing. And April is going to slow down a little bit because we have eclipses, we have a Mercury retrograde. So this is like the time to get moving on something if you want to get moving on something. And then April is going to slow down a little bit. So I tried to compact a lot of information into just a little bit of time because I didn't want to confuse anybody. It's overwhelming and the energy just feels overwhelming. So thanks for letting me share this moon information. I can't wait to hear your guest today. And that's the moon for March.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. We, of course,
Yay,
we
thank
will,
you, Allison. Even though you can't hear us.
We'll talk a little bit about this so that you can kind of hear what we would have said if we were talking in real time here. So thank you so much for coming in, and I'll go ahead and get you off there so you can hang out, and we will talk later. We'll get all this figured out before our next time on here. So don't worry about that. So thank you so much for coming in.
All right, cool. Thanks again, guys.
Yay, Allison.
I feel like there's a lot going on there because I think March kind of has that weird energy anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel in chat, but it's been so weird lately. We've gotten days where it feels like it's I'm ready to get in a bathing suit and head to the beach. And then and the next day it's cloudy and cold and rainy. And I know that's all dependent on your geography and where you're at, but I think March just kind of has that mix of energy, and so these moon phases are going to be interesting to see how they affect us moving forward. And I also think, that's what we talked about in the prediction show back in January was this long period of slumber and hibernation, right? We've been talking about that since.
And then March being like crazy time.
And March is when it's all going to hit the fan. Hopefully
here we go, crazy time.
It's all coming and rolling in. So let's get to our guest tonight, Pamela K. Kinney. Pamela K. Kinney gave up long ago trying not to listen to the voices in her head and has written best-selling horror, fantasy, science fiction, and nonfiction ghost and cryptid books ever since. 3 of her nonfiction ghost books garnered Library of Virginia nominations. Her 3rd ghost book, Virginia's Haunted Historic Triangle, Williamsburg, Yorktown, Jamestown, and Other Haunted Locations, reached a 2nd printing and is now a 2nd edition with new extra stories and 10 new ghostly images added. She has a cryptid book, Werewolves, Dogmen, and Other Shapeshifters Stalking North America, which we plan to dive into this evening.
Woo!
That released last year and also talks about mythology behind these creatures. She also has true ghost stories in various nonfiction anthologies, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I've read one of those. Her horror short story, Bottled Spirits, was runner-up for the 2013 WSFA Small Press Award and considered one of the 7 best genre short fiction for that year. She has various short stories and poems published in fiction and nonfiction, anthologies, magazines, online zines, a science fiction novella, an urban fantasy novel, 5 nonfiction ghost books, and a nonfiction cryptid book. Her horror poem, Dementia, got her mention in the Best Horror of the Year, Volume 13. Pamela and her husband live with one crazy black cat. Along with her writing, Pamela has acted on stage and film and investigates the paranormal for episodes of Paranormal World Seekers for AVA Productions. He is a member of both Virginia Writers Club, James River Writers, and Horror Writers Association. And you can learn more and check out all this stuff at PamelaKKinney.com. Pamela, welcome to the Witching Hours, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me today.
So I guess just you're one of the guests we've had on the show that, well, at least we talked earlier that I met in real life. We met originally at the Sage Paracon. What, it was about a year ago now. It was last spring, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I purchased this book here, Paranormal Petersburg, the Virginia and the Tri-Cities area. And this was
there it is.
yeah, and I have a signed copy
Twinsies.
There. So this was a big thing for me because we didn't meet in this area, but this was an area that me and Medium Ginny Lee are very familiar with, and we're originally from. And so some of our old stomping grounds were in that book. So I brought that home and gave
You guys know the story of the cemetery. Like, that was one of our first dates, right? Well, Pamela wrote about that place in her book.
Yeah.
Screamersville.
So I guess we can kind of start there. Some of the questions, I have is, well, you talked about it in your bio a little bit. So when and how did you decide that you were going to start writing about these haunted locations in that area? And how and another thing that I think is interesting is the fact that you're writing fiction and nonfiction, kind of both in there. So tell me a little bit about that and how it started and how you went about that.
Okay. I actually started out with fiction, of course. Actually, I was 17 when I got 3 poems published in a poetry magazine from Los Angeles. So, yeah, I started out there. And this past century, I've been doing a lot of short stories and stuff like that. When I was with this Mid-Atlantic Horror Professionals, it's like a forum. And one of the people that was a member, Dinah Roseberry, came on and said, well, I got a job at Schiffer Publishing. And it's the ghost book division, because they didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I guess they had everything else nonfiction figured out with that. So she asked if any of us wanted to write real ghost stories, not the made up ones. And I thought, well, I grew up in California, but I heard, besides being haunted out there, I've heard stories out here. I've heard over the years some stories from out here. So I thought, well, I looked up how to do a book proposal, because fiction, you send the whole thing in. But nonfiction, you have to give a book proposal or a proposal of something. So I looked in there and kind of figured out how to do it. And I wrote a little thing up and got it edited and all that stuff. And I submitted it. It was for Haunted Richmond, the first book. And it was maybe a month or so. And I heard back it was accepted.
Oh, nice.
They had a meeting. They have a meeting every time there for some. So that was the first one. After that was Haunted Virginia Legends, Myth and True Tales. And my husband can tell you, we drove all over the state and had 2,000 miles on our car from that.
Wow.
Yeah, back time comes how he found out. So, yeah, because you save everything, you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of miles. And and there's a lot of new stuff since that I've up to do at Virginia. You can't stop at any ghost stories anyway, because things pop up all the time. The next one after that was Virginia's Haunted Historic Triangle, the first edition. And at the time, I had a different editor. I didn't really like her. She doesn't work for them anymore, but Dinah ended up taking up the second edition one. And that's a really nice book, just looking inside it, the way it was put together by itself like that was worth it. Then I did Haunted Richmond too. And then somebody in Hopewell decided to ask me one day, I was doing a book sign, says, why don't you do one just about Petersburg and Hopewell and all this area around here?
Yeah.
Great cities. I mean, nobody's done it. So I went ahead and proposed, sent a proposal in, they accepted it. And I wrote the book, and it's real easy to get to here. I mean, it's like 15, 20 minutes away, the most, going, and not even going any streets back way. And I did different stuff and did investigations at night, because by that point I've had my ghost box, which if you read the book, and I know you got the copy, there's one page of all the stuff, including my ghost box up there. And so I got investigators at some of the stuff, like one was one night we did in July, we did a place down there, and it was a restaurant. And he no longer owns it. Somebody else did. He ended up with cancer, but he got better. But he decided to retire. The place is haunted by a friend of his who died.
Oh wow!
So she smoked marijuana, so that's how when she's around there. And
is there a phantom smell of marijuana? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, people would smell it, obviously. I didn't smell it, thank God, but everybody else did that worked there. His uncle died. He haunted it.
Wow.
And then there was a woman that they've seen dancing around there that was obviously 1800s, because there was a tavern across the street that's no longer there. If you've been there, there's that empty spot, and it probably came from there at some point. All I know is that it was part of the place across the street that has to do with my brain's the place across the street, which is, let me dig it up here real quick. My brain just won't work. The bistro is the one I'm talking about, but across the street from the bistro was the
oh, okay, yeah,
was that place where you have where they during the Civil War, during the time that they were locking up. Originally, it was used for I guess dropping stuff up because of 1600s. Peter Jones Trading Post.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it became during the Civil War, when they had the siege, they would lock up. Of course, Confederate Union, that they caught them, I guess spies, but the other ones, they locked up Confederates with them.
Wow. Because
they were caught thieving or doing something that was illegal.
I worked in the building right next to that, in the Appomattox Tile Art.
It's across the street, the trading, it's like rooms now.
Yes. I worked right on the corner.
I knew all this stuff. There's a story behind all that one. I can tell you that really will probably freak people out. All of us had gotten there. I had my ghost box, and I had taken out of my bag, so I left it on the seat, and all I grabbed was my ghost box. No, I grabbed my camera. I grabbed my ghost box, but I left my camera in the car. It was an older camera I had back then. And I went out, and we were doing stuff, and I let him go ahead and talk and do the investigation while I listened to the ghost box. We had it on and recorded everything. And I knew that they were both locked up there. And so one of the women says, well, who's in here? Who's haunting Confederates? She goes, Union? And the man's deep voice comes out of the box. Both.
Wow.
So I said, I knew that, So there was other things. They said, well, they were starting taking pictures. I said, oh, wait a minute, I got my camera. I took it out of my thing. It's in the car. I got to go get it. So I ran up there and opened the car. Okay, it's locked. Okay, so there's no way anything could get in there at least. And if it was broken into, you would tell. And it's not, and that's on the passenger seat. So I thought, well, let's check the floor. Not there. Check my seat. Not there, not on the floor. Check the back seat. Nothing. I thought, well, I locked the door. Maybe I did take it down. Went back down. I pulled everything out of the bag. Nothing's there.
Wow.
And it's like it disappeared. And I'm freaking out because it's my camera.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what the heck happened to it? So I ran back up there and I said, well, my camera's gone. So I even had we had at the time, not just me and my friend Carol Smith, but this couple was used to investigate with us. And they came up, and he went to help into the car. He went actually started tearing through the car again, maybe fresh eyes, while everybody else looked under all the cars that were ours only to see. And it was getting close to the time because people were starting to come out of the restaurant. 10 o'clock, we're allowed to go in there. And finally, I stopped and I looked funny at the camera, thinking, could it be? If I got one of those actually happened to me. I mean, things have happened before, but So I stopped and I looked toward there and I go, for the parking lot, okay, you don't want me to take a picture. So look, I need that camera. See that place across the street, the restaurant? We're doing an investigation there, and I have to have camera as pictures of proof along with everything else. So I need my camera. Besides the fact it costs to buy another one, but I need my camera. So if you could return it to me, I promise, absolutely, cross my heart, I will not go there and bother you. The others will not go and take pictures. So we were ready, and he just was still in there a little bit on the passenger side, looking on his knees in there. And I thought, oh, let's try one more time. Carol, I was going to tell Carol to go look under her car. When he stood up.
Hold on one second, Pamela. I think
Lenny backs up, stops, looks funny as he turns around and looks down at the bottom of his feet. I look down. There's my camera in its case, sitting on the ground. That would have been broken. I mean, what the heck? Where'd it come from? 10 minutes, it was gone. 10 minutes.
Wow.
So they brought it back. So I learned ever since then, if I ask politely, I get things brought back. It's happened later too. Yeah. So
that's crazy. It's disappeared and aborted.
They just didn't want me to.
Yeah.
Picture.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, those Petersburg ghosts, you got to look out for them.
Especially those soldiers, right?
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Wow. All right, so I just want to let you know, because using the program we're using tonight for our connection, we might get disconnected. There's a time limit thing on it, so if it is, we'll just take a quick break, and then I will send you another link, Pamela. So we'll just have to reconnect.
I did see something on mine.
Yes.
Yeah. And so just check your email. I'll send you another link, and we'll take a commercial break or something, and we'll get everything lined back up and pop back on, just in case you have an issue there. So that's interesting. Did you had something you were going to say, Medium Junior?
Somebody had asked a question earlier when he was reading off all of the things that you've done and that you do. If what did he say? If you ever have a break, does she ever have time off? That was the question.
Oh yeah, I make sure of that. But when you're a writer, you're on 24/7. It's not like but you love doing the writing anyway. So when you write stories, for example, fictional stories, it's fun because you're playing in different little worlds. You're like a god taking over.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same as working a regular job. So
no, thank goodness. Gotta do what you love. That's what we're working on.
So do you happen to remember your visit to Enon in Screamersville, Pamela?
Yeah, my husband and I went looking around because I kind of figured out from directions I found. I found a lot of the stuff about it, and who knows what it could be. It could be ghosts of, could have been from the African Americans that were there, but it could be the Civil War hospital was there. There's a one by the county, so I've been there, and that could have been because they used to cut off legs and stuff, and back then they didn't kind of have things to knock you out, so screaming was probably inevitable. Yeah. So it could have been a lot of that, and that was kind of hard because it's a neighborhood around there. A lot for me to stop and try do a ghost box session. People going like, what the heck are you doing? We finally figured it out because my husband thought he knew where it was, being working for the county and the utility. It's a fenced up area. There's apartments around there. So he's pretty sure because he's seen graves there. But when he had to go in the back, I can't go back there, but he can looking for the sewer. So there is graves, African-American cemetery graves back there.
That's where me and my friends used to go hang out in the woods, and we'd go by the cemetery that was all grown over, and now it's all neighborhood. It's so weird.
Now we got a fence around it. So
I'm glad that they put a fence around it though, and they didn't try to remove it somewhere.
Well, usually they do, and the county, what utilities does, he says if they find, and they run into a lot of things like that because there's a lot of homes that have cemeteries, and they're no longer owned by the same people, or the home's knocked down. So if they find something, they tell the local group that does all this stuff. Although I can tell you, and it's in my Haunted Richmond 2 book, it's not in this one, near me, there's a shopping center that has, used to have Crops, and then it had Martin's, and now it's empty, but it's got like Chesterfield Meadows Shopping Center near. You walk to it, and it's behind it, because when I moved here and I read a book by L.B. Taylor, I wanted to find where Wrexham Hall was. But we went up and down, drove up and down from where we lived at with my in-laws at the time, and drove up and down. I couldn't find it anywhere on Armbridge. And then I found out when I talked to somebody, they had moved it. They had moved the house.
Oh, wow.
Shopping center. It's behind. So it's not owned by, I don't know if they're B&B or they're just private owners now, but it used to be owned for a while. After the Judge Gates died, a couple of places do with weddings and stuff. And so I've been in there to investigate with the investigative group or stuff with that, to do with that, because she's had ghost things going on.
Yeah.
Usually the lady in red is the one that's famous for it, the daughter. But there was a graveyard there too, and it was their graveyard. Where CVS is now across the street was the African American. Now they built that there, but I'm assuming they had the historical society already there, so they could make sure those graves were moved. But when I talked and thought, well, they probably moved them. I mean, that's what they're for. One of the volunteers for that historical society says, no. Back when they built that shopping center, he said in the 80s, there was no historical society.
Oh my God.
So most likely, they were built the parking lot over all that stuff.
The parking lot's on top of it.
Because you think about it, the workers don't want to take time. They know they're supposed to tow and tell somebody, but they don't. That stops things. They can't build stuff. They can't make money.
Well, that would definitely get something to be haunted, I would think.
Yeah. There's a quick way to do it.
Yeah.
They told me stories that things would drop, and they know that the people put the stuff in good, the bottom shelf would drop out and stuff like that. So I added that in Haunted Richmond too. It was funny because years later, a couple of years later, when it became Martin's, one of the girls says, "Oh, I thought they were pulling my leg or something." they had invisible people in here all the time. And I thought they were making fun of me or something, or trying to pull my leg. I said, no, this has had hauntings in here.
Wow. Haunted grocery store, because they got dead people under the parking lot.
All right, so I want to shift gears in a second and get into the other book we definitely want to talk about tonight. So what we're going to do is, I think our call is getting ready to go through here.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a break and mute everything. Everyone can go grab a fresh beverage or a
potty
little
break,
snacky snack, whatever.
Snacky snack.
And then we will be right back in about 4 or 5 minutes, hopefully. And then we are going to get into another one of your books, Werewolves, Dogmen, and Other Shapeshifters Stalking North America. So everyone, stick around, grab something to drink or whatever, and we will be right back. Want to get weird? You can follow The Witching Hours on Facebook and Twitter. Join us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Witching Hours Podcast. Join us on Discord for all of the weirdness. There you will find links to the news, stories, and conversation. And finally, you can purchase The Witching Hours merch at streamlabs.com/The Witching Hours Podcast /merch. So hopefully you were able to find that beverage. Remember to ask questions in chat. There's like a 3-drink minimum there, or maximum.
3-drink minimum.
3-drink yeah. We get some good questions out of chat.
There'll be some really good questions. Yeah.
So right before we left, Pamela, we were talking about the book Werewolves, Dogmen, and Other Shapeshifters Stalking North America. So we have been wanting to talk about cryptids for a while, and now we have someone here to talk to them with. So tell us about some of these weird creatures you were able to write about in that book.
Well, I decided in 2020, I wrote 2 novels too, but I wrote this nonfiction. I wanted to write something that not only because I like werewolves, I've always have. That's my favorite animal. I don't care monster. I don't care about vampires and everything. But I also thought I could write about all sorts of shapeshifters. It's got to be in America, right? So I started getting a lot of books, started looking online. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. I mean, what else was to do, right? And I found out a lot of things. I learned a lot of things. So that's what I like about my nonfiction over fiction. The difference is you can learn things.
Oh, yeah.
And we never did, whether it's history or whether it's legends or ghosts or anything, you can learn things that you're not going to learn. So I kind of learned about a lot of interesting cryptids. I mean, werewolves and dogmen, they could be almost basic the same. Let's be honest. They call it dogmen. I'm going to call it wolfmen. I know the dogmen hunters are not going to like that, but it's now that we have proof. I've always known this. When scientists finally said dogs are really wolves, they're descended from two different species of wolves in the prehistory. Hey, yeah, I could say that with a dog that looked close enough to being that, and people thought. Mm-hmm. So, but I added the werewolves as a lot of the stories with the legends and stuff that people weren't sure that's what they called them. And then in dogmen, I added that was what they called them, period. And a lot of those are more sightings. Though I got history, like Michigan dog, when the first dogman was really seen, which was in Michigan and everything like that. So
we have some viewers in Michigan.
Well, it's here in Virginia, so we have a little over. I didn't think something like that was just, but I went ahead. Other shapeshifters I have. Let's see what I can say. Let's see if I can find pictures of one. Probably not. There is also, I have a lot of werewolves, by the way, and dogmen. There's the famous one, which is Otterman, or the Kushtiga.
Otterman.
Otterman.
No, it doesn't look like this cute little picture here.
Yeah.
A little picture of an otter at the Richmond Zoo on Hall Street in Chesterfield.
Yeah.
It's actually, they believe that the tribes up there believe that if you get lured out, it's like anything else. You get lured out by something. It's actually an otterman try to get you. A land otter is what they say. It's like a monstrous land otter. They can become like that, and they end up mostly it's men, and they become a giant 8-foot walking on its hind feet. That's more creepier than a Bigfoot if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, otters are very mischievous, so I can see them luring people out into the woods.
So they have that. We have, of course, skinwalkers. It's witches, but they shape-shift. We have owl witches. Yeah, they're witches, but they shape-shift into owls, monsters.
That sounds fun. I think I could do that. Let's do that.
They're carnivorous. Can you eat like
like raw stuff? No. Maybe if I was when I was the owl, maybe.
Yeah, you'll have fun with the owl pellets, I guess, later, right?
Yeah.
And then you got the Wendigo. It does change people. And there is stories in my book, too, with 3 of them are legends of the Wendigo from the Native Americans of that area that had it. So
tell us a little bit about the Wendigo. I'm not super familiar. I've heard of it before, but I'm not super familiar with the...
Usually it's like Minnesota, that area, even Canada, but anything that's to do with the cold, it's ice. And what it is how the white man first found about it was a guy, they would find out that one Native American guy, I guess he had a family, and it was winter really bad in the area, like I think it was Minnesota, that area. I would have to look at my book again, but it got so bad, and they found his family. He had killed them, chopped them up, ate them.
Oh my goodness.
And he said it was the Wendigos did it. And they can blame that, I guess. It's a pretty big thing, but I guess deep down inside, we know cannibalism can happen when you're stuck in there. And it's happened in modern times when people were stuck up with Donner Party, kids and stuff. Donner Party had it too, so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jamestown.
Even Jamestown had some cannibalism.
It was all their own. So, it's a pretty common thing, but I guess that was a way to explain it. And of course, the Wendigo, you see the real one, you see the deer horns and how skinny, and it's like so skinny, it's like it's starving. So you got that sort of thing. and it's been interesting. A couple of people have actually had encounter with aliens and thought it was a Wendigo, but no, you know.
Yeah, I can see that.
that maybe the thinness, but that's what they saw one of them. But I don't think so. There's the horn thing, but yeah, it takes over people and changes them, supposed to look like that. So there's a shape shifting avenue there. Shape shifting is quite an interesting way of how do you shift. And it's not the only monster. There's others that did it too. In fact, there's 3 Native American ones that I've kind of noticed something interesting. Now, the skinwalkers, I have read this in a blog years ago when I wrote about that. When I had a blog, looked up on it. And the Navajo don't like to talk about it, say the name. Because if they do, they'll come to them. Okay, that's the belief.
Yeah, lock the doors.
Okay. Well, so does the Kushtaka. They believe it. The natives up there believe the Kushtaka. If you talk about it, it will come to you.
What is that one?
The same thing. If they think about it, talk about it.
Yeah.
If they ignore it, it's like the Navajo. It won't come to you. Otherwise, it hears you. It's like it can psychically hear you, I guess, and come at you. And they don't want them to come. And there's another one in the Washington, state of Washington, another tribe that has a different one. It was only a little bit of something, but it's another one. So, yeah, that's a pretty common theme, I thought. I mean, they all started with the land bridge. They all came down from Alaska. So I'm sure at that point that came down with them at some point, too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that is in 3 different tribes in the United States.
And it's all the same idea that if you talk about it or think about it, that it's going to come. We had a question from chat. Are there any stories that you've been meaning to investigate, but it hasn't come to be yet? Well,
I had a 6th book. It's back in my hands, and we're going to see if the current publisher right now she's going to let us all go and fix this. We get our stuff. They already got published on Ingrams for our names on it, so we can get everything that way. Because she's got a few. It's a problem right now that they think, and she's got 3 years of a job, and that doesn't help with the job doing it. And so she edits normally too. But I did do another one, and I got the book back from the guy that did it because I kind of rather have it go through Ingram so I could get in Barnes & Noble with my other book. It's called Haunted Surrey to Suffolk. Spooky Tales of
yeah.
I've been in Bacon's Castle. I can tell you a story about that. There's a lot of them, yeah. I stayed overnight investigating Barron's pub down in Suffolk. And yeah, it's really haunted because that whole building used to be a hotel from the 20s.
Oh, wow.
And people that live upstairs had... he told me the manager of the pub that he heard from people up there. They actually, like one guy saw a flapper in his bathroom one day. So it's like
good times.
Yeah, so that sort of thing. Yeah, we got some interesting stuff too. So that night.
So from all of your travels and investigations and writing, what area or location do you think is the most haunted in Virginia?
If I have to point it out, it would be both the historic triangle, but they're not only that area, Petersburg and the Tri-Cities, because they both have a lot of, I've gotten actually a lot of pictures out of them. In fact, Petersburg beat it at first.
Oh, yeah.
There is the pictures you saw in there. But I finally got more when I had the reissue of Williamsburg redone.
Will you explain what the historic triangle is to our viewers that don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah, we have people from all around the world in here, on the other side of the pond and everything else. So.
Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown are the triangle. And what I did was I considered the rest of it around it too. So because they're all connected at some point. You got Newport News, you got Hampton, you got Gloucester, you got West Point where the Cahock Light has been seen, and I was there. You have, of course, I added Charles City, which used to be part of Chesterfield, surprisingly.
I can see that.
It's still connected, easier to get to because of the Williamsburg thing. So you got that. And I got all of that in that area around there. So, but yeah, Triangle is considered Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. So it's like a triangle, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. For greatest good, that's the area where George Washington rallied and was able to summon lightning from the sky and single-handedly cast the British out of North America.
He's our British friend.
So we are we're right down there near that area where all this American shenanigans went on.
Yeah.
A couple hundred years ago. So yeah. So that's one of those big. Obviously they do ghost tours and stuff like that. I know in Halloween time, Williamsburg becomes a huge ghost tour mecca. Which were you able to check out any of those places during your investigations?
Well, we were invited. Paranormal World Seekers invited. Except the only one didn't come was Mark, who does the filming. He's an actual professional videographer. My husband was there with me, and my friend Carol came. We did the oldest ghost tour in Williamsburg, and they did a special one on the National Ghost Hunting Night in 2017. It's in the book too, and we got through there. In fact, when we got to it's considered the most haunted house in Colonial Williamsburg, the Peyton Randall house. It's the original real one there.
Oh yeah,
still there. Usually by midnight, they're at the other one, the last one they usually do, which is the next one over. But we got to there, and the guy was telling them the stories, and there was a psychic with us. Number one, I already had stuff going on. We already had stuff going. My friend Carol's, she has that other type of box that has little robotic words coming out. And we started getting things to do with that area we were in, murder, this, that, and nanny, mammy, stuff like that. So, and they were talking about the murder somewhere else. So,
wow,
mentioning it, that was coming up on. She said she had never seen it speed up that fast and giving the stuff out. And then I heard something in the backyard of one, and the psychic asked me, she said, "What do you hear?" And she took, because I was crying. I said, "Well, there's this man, and he's not happy back there." But at the end, we were at Peyton Randall House, and I am not joking. I saw, to me, it looked like black smoke. It was going around where the chimney is of the house, and it was really. And I said, "Does anybody else see that black smoke ring like a snake?"
Weird.
And my friend Carol goes, "I don't see anything." And the psychic comes up to me and he says, "Oh, Pam, don't worry. You're not crazy. I see it too."
Wow.
Carol goes, "I still don't see it. Why don't I get to see it?" I said, and I went there and took a picture, and it's in the book. The only thing is the time the person did the pictures, they're supposed to bring it where they can bring down, if it's too far away. You can see images there, but you can't see, at least you had, like I did, close.
Yeah.
Not in the book. So they had to bring it down to show them, right? She quit, so she didn't do it. Well, she didn't do that. So it
No
was
close up in the book.
late to get anybody to do it. But I do bring the pictures of some of my signs. Well, here's the close up. So you want, but yeah, there's two. One was headless, and someone else tried to point that out. Why wasn't I talking about it? I said, "Oh no, I'm not worried about that. I knew that was there." I said, "I'm pointing out the other one on the other side," because Carol found a picture of her from 20 years before. That was Betty Randolph standing in the window.
Oh my God.
You see her, literally, this half of her, and her hair up, blondish hair, her face, the skirt. Someone tried to say it was an African American slave. I said that was a curse. No, I said that was hair piled up. I recognize.
Yeah.
And she was glaring down. Well, that's where they had the people listening to about the stories. And the guy in front of them, he was one of the guys, because they had several that did that National Ghost Tour thing, and he was African American. Plus Bree, the psychic there, and she was African. So was she glaring because of them? Because she was
maybe
her slaves, supposedly.
Oh yeah,
that was a big thing about it. But yeah, you could tell. And when the picture looking up, yeah, that was her.
Wow. Very interesting. So was that the craziest thing you've experienced, or has there been?
That's the craziest. The second. If you're talking about ghost tours, Williamsburg has their own. They actually, one of the guides decided to convince them where you can go inside. So if you ever go to Williamsburg, go to their website, look up for that one. because it's going to go fast. But we got in. There was 2 buildings we got to go inside, and it is at night. Okay, and the third one we were outside was privately owned at this point, so they had to tell the story about that one. But one of them was the Peyton Randall. And they were talking about it. We were inside, and I swear I saw something. So I took a picture going, I figure, up the stairs. Well, I'm in here. This is not a good time to do it. And Bill, my husband, is sitting on the bottom step. And in one of the pictures, his face is gone.
That's creepy.
I said, do you know this, Bill? I showed him the picture. Your face is gone.
Was that the last one he went on with you?
No. That was a ghost tour. He's got all my investigations. He handles the camera. So.
Okay, good.
And he can tell you stories about the camera and stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So, have you ever experienced a cryptid yourself?
No, I wouldn't mind seeing a dog.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about a Bigfoot. There's something scary about a big ape that's big as a gorilla.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen a gorilla that tall that was at the San Diego Zoo, and I know how it was pretty standing up tall, and it was behind an enclosure. I wouldn't know if I would want one of those mad at me. But I still would like to see a dog man or a werewolf man. Because,
Yes.
to be honest, it's like werewolf. You're actually seeing one.
Yeah. When we first moved up to the area we're at now, because like we said, we're kind of in the foothills up here near the Blue Ridge Mountains. I hear a lot of talk in this area about Bigfoot in the mountains, and a lot of people who have had sightings, which around here they call it the wood booger. So there's another name for you.
There you go.
I heard of that name.
There's your next book, Pamela. Wood Buggers of
the
Virginia.
Wood booger of Virginia.
Maybe you better be quiet. Maybe the Bigfoot might not like that name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
So what would you say is probably the most common, like from writing that book, what seemed to be kind of the most common thing that people see in Virginia as far as cryptids go? With the dog man, is this something that tended to be more of a myth, or is this something that is still being seen more recently?
It's still being seen. We have one in Henrico, the werewolf. I named it back when I did did Haunted Virginia first, and I ended up Haunted Richmond too, because it is in the area. So I call it the Werewolf of Henrico. I didn't know what else to call it for the title of the book, the chapter. But there has been sightings supposedly in a couple of areas in Henrico. One by the river where these boats are done and landing, and the other ones that these called Confederate Hills. They changed the name because of the time. Supposedly seen there too, but one of them was described. It almost reminded me of the werewolf in Harry Potter, the one that didn't look like a werewolf to me. In fact, the dog guy, he changed to the dog, more like a werewolf to me. But yeah, the white thing. Then they mentioned a couple of white things like that, and they got scared a couple. And there's a website for forum on there, people talking about it.
Wow.
So and I found out later. I feel so proud in a kind of way. She's passed away. Linda what's her name? Bray, who did the Bray Road. Linda Joffrey, that's it. Who did she actually wrote a book on different werewolves or dogmen, whatever, of the United States. Werewolf in Henrico. Werewolf of Henrico's in there, the title.
Oh, wow.
So come on, I named it.
Yeah, you named it.
So obviously, did she read one of my books at some point?
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder. I mean, there it is. I'm going, oh my gosh.
That's
But
cool.
it's a current sighting.
Wow.
I think that's basically it on the whatever it is, dogman, werewolf, whatever it is. The other stuff have been earlier. One was Stone Gap, that was in the 1800s. The Dismal Swamp one is the 1800s. So things like that. But no, the werewolf keeps coming on with more stories. You go to that.
And so that dates back pretty far then too. So multiple sightings, different parts, different areas.
Yeah.
And
For at least 200 years.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So what is the typical
endless supply of souls?
What is the typical kind of description of the dogman or the werewolves?
standing high on its leg, just like you see in a movie. I would think the one with the more like if you're seeing with it, not like American Werewolf, more like the Howling or something, standing on their legs, pointed ears, pointed snout like a wolf.
Okay.
And some say, though, they've actually seen even different stories where it actually ran in 4 legs, which means it can go down and do that,
Yeah.
which, you know, as humans, we end up not doing that anymore. When we got up here, it's kind of hard. We can do that. Have you seen movies where Planet of the Apes, where they're humans playing the parts for real, but it's not as easy anymore for us to do
Oh, no.
like
Yeah.
what the chimpanzee can.
Mm-hmm.
So like that. And actually, that's not the only cryptid seen here. If you go to my Haunted Virginia Legend, Myth, and True Tales, I do have books in there. The cryptids are monsters. There's of course, Bigfoot. Actually, Bigfoot, Virginia is the oldest sighting of Bigfoot.
Wow.
So when
that's
the
interesting.
state of Washington, Virginia can brag about that, at least, if nothing else. They are the oldest sighting. A lot of them don't know that until I tell them. I'm really shocked. These are Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I learned
I
that.
believe it.
That's what called research does for you. You learn things. We also have the devil monkey.
Oh, devil monkey.
Kind of reminds me of a baboon, but it's vicious, and it's been seen in at least definitely either the western part of Virginia, especially the southwestern part. Different story. But it's actually seen in North Carolina and a couple other states nearby too. So
Look out, Allison. You got the devil monkey down there.
Yeah. Watch out for the devil monkey.
let's see what else I can remember now. My brain went crazy. There's other. Well, of course, we have witches too, but that's not cryptids.
No.
A
Yeah.
whole different ball of wax there.
Yeah.
But
We have some of those in chat tonight. So
Yeah.
well, there's actually in the western part of Virginia, they used to have witches and wizards. They actually have a lot of folklore for out that way.
Oh, wow.
While in Virginia Beach, they had a real. Well, they accused her being a witch.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't, but
yeah, the Witch of Pungo.
right, and she was forgiven by the governor.
Yeah.
So
That was interesting. I went down with a friend before COVID happened, Pamela. I had a friend, and we actually drove down to Williamsburg to the House of Burgesses, where they do. I don't know if you've heard about this, but they do a recreation of the trial.
Right.
Yeah, and we got to go in there, and we didn't really know what to expect. We happened to be kind of the first ones in line, and we got to participate in it. And we were actually up there with the actors and stuff as playing. Instead of being like down in the jury, which was just a crowd, we were actually up on the stage and all that stuff. And it was really interesting because they have the whole play-by-play, so to speak, the records of the trial, and so they act the whole trial out historically accurate from the records. And you're in there with maybe 50 or 60 people who are all at that point, I think it was year 2019, and me and my friend talked before we went down there, and we said at the beginning of the trial, they say, are you going to find her innocent or are you going to find her guilty? And I was like, obviously we're going to find her innocent. Like, no one in the modern day is going to do this.
Right.
But by the time the trial was over, I think a lot of people in there, like, honestly, just trying to make the best decision they could. Like, I don't think anyone was really trying to, overturn the cart there. We found her guilty of witchcraft.
How do you know she's a witch?
And because there was actually some evidence, and Virginia didn't allow spectral evidence like Salem did. They used more scientific methods. You couldn't just say that you saw a familiar or something like that. That wasn't admissible. But the Witch of Pungo is requested to say the Lord's Prayer at the end of it. And she begins to say the Lord's Prayer, and she passes out on the floor cold.
Oh, wow.
And so
how long
they find her.
Could have been that she was standing too long, and it might have been. When was it?
Yeah.
Or the nerves or the stress or whatever.
I think if I remember right, it was warmer because the Fairy Plantation, if you go there, and actually they're going to have a Paracon in May. I'll be there.
Yeah, I just saw that.
So that the former person that was in charge, also in charge of it, her daughter is now. She passed away. She was the expert on the Witch of Pungo and a lot of witch stuff.
Wow.
In fact, we actually had one hanging only, and that was on one of the ships, I guess, come to Jamestown.
Mm.
They hung somebody being a witch on the ship.
Wow.
How they determine that. But I'm wondering, it was warmer. I think it was warmer weather because they did the actual go and show her being dunked. Mm-hmm. And if you're hot, and I can imagine there was a lot of people that might have been warm. I can imagine that could be because she was ahead of her time. She knew her herbs. She communicated with the local natives, which was frowned upon if you think about it. She was a woman doing things. I mean, her husband owned the farm, but she went out there and worked the farm. They weren't working the farm. They thought, what is she doing? All that and stuff like that. So she was probably ahead of her time. And after they put her in jail, because she got away, because she could swim. Her father was Scottish, and she had learned how to swim. So she knew how to swim. So when she got out of the rope, she could swim around. And unfortunately, I always thought that water thing was no good way of getting out of it. If you drowned, you're innocent, but you're dead anyway.
Exactly.
And if you survive and swam around, you're guilty, and that's what I'm saying.
They're going to kill you anyway.
Doing things to these people. So that really probably wasn't good anyway. But they put her in jail, and then they finally let her out, and she went back home and lived till she passed away. But there were things I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It'd be like if one of us went there now, we'd be confused of witchcraft, all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
What do you mean you know the future?
Yeah.
It's an interesting story.
I would have been burned a long time ago.
Interesting story. And if you go down to Norfolk now, there's a road there called Witch Duck Road.
Witch Duck Road, yeah.
And that's, I grew up there my whole life and never had heard about the story until I was in my 30s. So.
Well, Fairy Plantation, you ought to go there. I think her daughter's still in charge, and they're doing a Paracon there. So
awesome!
I'd love to check it out.
We had a question in chat about writing. So, what makes a story worth writing for you?
Well, I want to make it interestingly, hopefully mine. And honestly, there's 7 plot points, so there's no getting away from it since since mythology, literally. But you're going to try to do something different, and I want it to be interesting that I like. I like to write what I read anyway. I read horror, I read science fiction, I read fantasy. I actually read nonfiction. I read, as a kid, Hans Holzer. That was who I grew up with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I like cryptid stuff because that's interesting, even whether it's true or not. But as a writer, too, as a horror writer and a fantasy, these are things you can add in anyway. So learning about all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I write something, it's got to be interesting. That's why right now I have 2 stories written for this call, a submission call on hauntings. And one is one thing, paranormal investigators, which both end up dead. I won't tell you more about the story. It's pretty definitely horror. And the other one is the ghost dragon thing and the ghost people. So it's going to be one that I'm hoping I can get a couple of people from this group on if they could look at it. If they agree which one is better, even give me advice on what looks, sounds, change them. Then I can submit the one that'll work,
Awesome.
It's always hard to tell what they want. They tell you, you wrote really well, and I found out there was one I thought, I was rejected for a vampire one. And I've had people tell me they never heard of it before. The vampire gave birth at the end of a living child, and then she ends up killing herself so she wouldn't go back and attack her mother who was raising the kid, who was human. Because this was after a plague went through, so that a lot of people were changing into vampires, not the old TARDIS zombie thing. Killed herself. And they said, I've never heard of that before. Well, I would thought that would have been somewhere along the line. But, so I always try to do something, hopefully a little different.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, but it's about write what you want to write. Like one writer said, you can write, I got to write with somebody, a whole novel to submit to a publisher because they are looking for certain stuff now. Mm-hmm. But by the time yours gets accepted, by the time it gets started to be edited, all that stuff, things may change.
Yeah.
So write what you want to write. Have fun doing it because you don't want to end up hating the story. Yeah, exactly. So just tell whoever wants to know about that, just write what you want to write, what interests you.
He said, Ghost Hunters ending up dead. I hear a sequel.
It's actually based off my novel. The story is coming out of that, but the novel was rejected. I'm going to go over it. It's called Nowhere Land. And it's got a land where people disappeared for centuries. So it's it's set in Virginia.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. It does sound interesting. All right, chat. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and throw them in there, and we will relate those over. If you're just joining us or stopped in since we've started, our guest tonight is Pamela K. Kinney, and we are talking about a whole host of things. We're talking a lot about the books that were written for haunted places, specifically in Virginia. And we've also been talking about cryptids, the werewolves and dogmen and other shapeshifters that have been slinking around in the shadows in Virginia for a couple hundred years now. So if you have any questions about those, let us know.
So what do you think, Pamela? Do you think that the dogmen or the wolfmen are like their own species, or do you think they're shapeshifters?
That would be interesting to know, because, that goes on around, but almost thinking supernatural, but another species. And, maybe I'm crazy and I think of these things. And I know it's a writer's brain, but I also am scientific. I mean, I read science, that there could be other dimensions. There's doorways for the ghosts. Now, I'm not sure where the ghosts, the afterlife would be in dimensions. They now show, I saw an article about what the fourth dimension they think things would look like. We're the third. We're fourth-sided. What if they're in another dimension or another world that's different but us, and there's a doorway that opens once in a while and something slips through.
Yeah.
I mean, Bigfoot, they could die. I mean, there's animals you never find. I don't care what they say. There's animals that could be eaten up, or if they're intelligent, they find a way to bury it somewhere deep down. Or maybe somebody even suggested they ate themselves. They're dead.
That's a great theory.
Suggested, which is
we talked a lot about cannibalism tonight.
Well, I'm just saying that could be if you want to throw it in.
Yeah, you got it. It's true.
Other dimensions, because there's the same thing now that they've proven. Now the Navy finally. Blue Book said it way before the Navy that the UFOs were real, and so the things that they had that they could not prove on the ones that they couldn't prove. So are they from outer space? Wormhole? Are they from another dimension? I mean, there's different types.
Time travel.
Yeah.
I saw
many possibilities.
I saw a UFO as a kid with my mother. She pointed in the sky. We were living in Sacramento, the backyard. My father was under the tree on his bench he had made. And my mother goes, "What the heck is that?" And I stood up, and I was third grade, but I was intelligent. I knew about UFOs and stuff like that. Like I said, I was reading this. It was pretty ahead of my time reading anyway. And I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh. And I went under it. It was really big. It was low enough to the ground. Like they didn't give a damn what was seen. Okay. They didn't care. That's how low enough to show how big it was, but it was circular. It had a kind of like red and silver, but it meshed together color. And it had a sound. I can't describe it now, but I remember it in my head sometimes a sound for a long time. And it went slowly over our backyard, over the house, and that's it. And I went later and told a friend about that. She said, "You saw a UFO? There's a cop over there." I said, "You think the cop's going to believe a kid?" But I remember to this day, it was like so stark during the afternoon, bright sunlight. Like, I don't care if you see us. So that was one kind. But now we see these light things that can split apart. I don't care what they think. Russia doesn't have it. China doesn't have something that's enough to take apart and come two things.
Yeah.
You know, Pamela, that's something that has been seen in our area a lot lately. A lot of UFO sightings in Virginia. And of course, we also have a lot of military. So you don't know what's being done there. But I had a UFO sighting in Richmond. I've told this story many times, so chat probably wants me to move on with that. But I was working short to make it short. I was working in Richmond as a security guard, and I was on top of the Richmond Times-Dispatcher Media General down there off Franklin Street. and I was up on top of the building, and I normally wouldn't have gone outside, but I was training somebody that night, so I went outside, and I saw like a blue flame boomerang shape, like a boomerang, and it was just hovering in the sky, and it sat there for a little while, and I was like, well, maybe it's like a meteor, and there's some kind of like some kind of illusion that's happening, and it's like moving towards me, so it doesn't look like it's moving. And then right when I thought that, it just took off in the flash of an eye. And it was really odd because it wasn't metal or anything like that. It looked like a blue flame, but it definitely had a solid shape to it. So never figured that one out. And then what you were just talking about, those orange lights, I know probably for the last decade or so, these orange orbs have been seen a lot. And I had a sister who lived down towards Portsmouth and Norfolk, and she was driving down 64 and just kept seeing these orange orbs like fly over her and then like break apart and start flying off in different directions. Yeah. So that there's been quite a few. That might be another something else to write about for Virginia's these UFO sightings.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I really think it's more than one race, and I don't care what they say. Oh, they can't really, the scientists. There's no way all that. Yeah, I think there's intelligence.
Yeah, I think that's a bunch of horse crap.
Now that they found that there are galaxies that are older than they thought the Bang was, something could have advanced enough. And if they're advanced enough to come here from another planet or even from another dimension, which is a different whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
We don't know what different things are visiting here. Of course, they're watching us. We're doing all the crazy things we're doing now. We might blow each other up. We're wrecking our planet. So
we've been eating each other for all these years.
It's like, you know, we're not going to let you join our federation. It's like Star Trek, but you can't bother us. And people said, well, why would anybody, some of them would actually, it was the Greys, which was more the metal thing I saw. People were taken and abducted. What would they do that for? I was in a convention, science fiction, and I said, well, figure this out. What have we been doing for all those years with the primitive people? We've done things, we changed it, we made them do things, we've done things to them, treated them like they weren't human. So if something's more intelligent than us, they may think, even though we're intelligent, we know that, they may not understand that. And so, of course, they're going to do all that stuff they do. So that's just logic. I mean, if you think about, you know, so I don't know. It's interesting, though. Like you saw one, I saw.
So do you,
I think they're watching.
Oh, yeah. Were you already interested in weird stuff at that point? Or was your alien UFO sighting like the thing that kind of sparked your interest in all the sci-fi and stuff?
Well, I like that stuff, but what I wrote back then wasn't real animals, but I did write science fiction. Though my alien was weird, so I described it. It was in my dreams and all that.
Oh, okay.
It was a wolf with wings and antenna. And on Mars.
You've had the wolf thing your whole life.
I have.
Yeah.
We know that wolves, anyway, nothing because like right now could live on Mars. But it's just that, it was interesting to read that stuff. And I think I've always been interested in stuff. It's kind of like I pose my question, do I believe this thing or is it real? It's like the Mexican president showed that picture, so it was like an elf. Now I'm looking at that picture, and I thought, well, they got monkeys down there. See, this is the logic in me.
Oh yeah.
What's like you investigate the same thing and make sure it's real. So I go on and I put in around when the Incas were living, what kind of monkeys, and one of them looks not that far from that what it has around its head. So it could have been a monkey, and maybe they saw monkeys back then and they didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always possible.
Interesting.
Incas back different era, so different time years ago. So, but maybe it was an elf. Whatever the race he called it, elf anyway.
Oh yeah,
that was interesting. Yeah,
so many options.
Well, it's also that synchronicity of like these different things existing in different cultures around the world, you know.
Yeah,
and being called different things, but when you see them drawn or whatever, they're essentially the same creatures, you know, known by different cultures. So
right,
yeah,
fairies have been all over the world. They just call different names. England was the word for, and Ireland was the word for fairies. Everywhere else it was something else. Spirits of type in Japan and stuff like that, but all over the world. Same thing with, Bigfoot's all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There are a
for
lot of
sure.
sightings now. And some of those were, you would think, okay, one was seen, were orangutans, but they weren't orange. That
No.
really would be a given away if it was an orangutan because they're
Yeah.
orange. Now, I don't think any were seen in Africa.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I read any stories there, and that's got the gorillas, so, which,
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know that there's not, but yeah, it's not something I've heard of before.
Where it's more like, where are there not Bigfoot?
Where are they not?
Yeah.
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 So I had another question for you. You might have said this earlier, but do you enjoy writing fiction more or nonfiction?
I like both.
Yeah.
I like writing the ghost stuff. It's investigating. It's teaching me something. Same thing with the cryptid. I've learned a lot of stuff, and actually have a lot of writers buy the book now too. So,
Awesome.
that's what I wrote. Also intentionally, what would a writer like, especially when I write horror or fantasy? There's a lot of stuff they can kind of get ideas and maybe write true stuff. So, but I also like fiction because I can play in my own little world.
Yeah. What fiction story are you most proud of?
Well, I got a novel out there, How the Vortex Changed My Life. That was the urban fantasy novel set in Richmond and Chesterfield.
Ooh.
And
Not like I had enough books to read, but it looks like I need to get some more.
it's an urban fantasy, and there's a woman on the cover and a giant eyeball, which is about the size of about that size, and it's named Larry.
Oh, I love it.
So there's some
Larry the giant eyeball.
actually.
Oh, even better.
So yeah,
Cool.
but I'm proud of that. But I'm also, I think, hopefully proud of all my novels or all my stories, especially ones that get a home somewhere to be. So
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Someone to share and enjoy what you've created. I understand that as a visual artist for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're probably getting to about that time. It's heading towards that time. Make sure you go check out everything that we've been talking about tonight. PamelaKKinney.com. And there you can find her books, which are available on Amazon. You said that your most recent one was available in Barnes & Noble as well?
right, the new ones aren't. It's actually everywhere. It's Ingram, so it's Barnes and Noble. Well, probably not in the store. They should be able to, but they don't. But you can go online to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, indiebound.org, which is a lot of the small press stuff and like that, and also the bookshop.org, which if you do that one, also they donate to help local indie bookstores too.
Oh, cool. That's good to know.
And
All right.
if you come, I'll be at a couple of events this month. One of them I won't be doing it. I'll be doing a panel, which is GalaxyCon in Richmond. But
Yeah.
following week, AuthorCon, Scares That Cares AuthorCon 2. That's going to be in Williamsburg at the Double Tree Hotel. I'll be there as a vendor, plus doing a panel and a reading. So be reading a short story. I have a new story coming in, a new anthology, supposedly coming out at the end of this month. I'm still waiting for the publisher to recontact us back after she said that. And it's actually set in Dismal Swamp too. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's a ghost story.
When is GalaxyCon?
It's March 24th, 25th, 26th.
Okay. Well,
Coming up soon.
yeah, knowing that you're being there, maybe I'll pop in down there. Maybe I'll pop in down there.
I'll be there Saturday. We have a horror writing scary show. It's a thing at 8:30 our panel, but there's also one on somebody's doing cryptids. I know the girl Michelle Hamilton. I guess she's going to write a cryptid book now. That's why she's talking.
Oh, cool.
She was at stage, and then there was other stuff going on there, plus actors. So it's
Oh, yeah.
So go check it out, guys. There's plenty to read. If you want fiction, if you want nonfiction, you want to have a little bump in the night, or if you want to learn about some ghosts, down in our neck of the woods, go check it out. Thank you for everyone who came by tonight. We had the raid from Linguist, Sista Blue, Serrated Grin, and Luxora Studios all with the follows tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate all you wonderful weirdos who came out to hang out with us once again on the Witching Hours. Just to kind of do an update on what we have coming up in the calendar here, our next stream is going to be the 16th. We're going to have Ragnar Eriksson on. He's going to talk about his near-death experience and kind of what he's been up to since the video that we've watched. We'll kind of talk about that and what he's been up to since then. On the 30th, we have Vicky Loubier, who's coming to talk about angels and Lilydale.
Spiritualism.
Yeah. And so those are the next two people we have on. We have Mark Hunter Brooks coming back soon.
Yeah.
And towards the end of April, we have another guest who's coming on named Cheryl Costa, who's the author of some UFO books. He's going to come on and talk about like scientific data, like kind of like how many.
It's a lot of sightings stuff, right?
Yeah, like how many sightings are in each state, and like what's being seen. Kind of keeping a record logged of who's seeing what, where, and when. So important work that's going on there. So once again, thanks everybody. We will see you all, most of you, tomorrow for the Friday stream. We made it to the end of the week.
Yeah. Pamela, stay on for a minute and we'll talk to you after we get off. Yep.
Excellent. All right, everyone. You all take care, and we will see you all
tomorrow.
next time.